Keeping up with our motto, let learning be a joy and teaching a pleasure, here we are with the remote teaching and learning process to bridge the gap. Happy learning to all students. Hello students, a very warm welcome to all of you. In today's video, we are going to continue our chapter number 4 from history textbook of standard 6, and this is the third and the last part of the chapter, and the name of the chapter is the Vedic civilization. So let's see which topics we have covered in our last video. Those were family system and day-to-day life of the Vedic people. And we also learned about the agriculture, animal husbandry, economic and social life or social status of people during Vedic period. And today we are going to continue with the religious ideas, what people used to do for the to please their gods, and the political system, how the villages or the kingdoms were run or the administration was done by different heads of the areas. Okay, let's begin with religious ideas. So in the religious ideas of the Vedic period, what people used to do, they used to worship different forces of nature like sun god, wind, there was a wind god, rain, lightning, storms, and rivers. All these natural forces were worshipped and they were given the form of deities, idols. Vedic compositions pray them to become life-giving forces because they were the source of different, like sun god used to give them light, wind was required, rain was required for agriculture. So they were life-giving forces. Okay, so the Vedic people put offerings into the yajna or we get fire to please them. So many yajnas were performed by people to please all the deities, so then they can keep protecting them or they can keep providing them different sources which were required for their livelihood. So yajna, what is yajna? So yajna is the act of offering havi into the fire, to put something into the fire, and that offering that the people used to put and even put today is known as havi. So in the beginning the yajna rites were very simple, okay, but later on as the Vedic period kept on progressing towards the later Vedic period, these rules becomes very harder, and only the the importance of so because of that the importance of priests went on increasing, because people started thinking that only priests or pandits or brahmins, they only could understand those. That's why their importance increased. Now as we know that all these are natural forces and they have all these natural forces have their different time, as we have different seasons in a year. Okay, so people in the Vedic period had thought about how these natural phenomena occur, how the different season takes place, how this cycle of nature goes on. So summer is followed by the rainy season and the rainy season by winter. This is a regular cycle. Okay, and the cycle in nature and the life cycle that moved with it were termed by the Vedic people as a rita. They used to think that as the regular cycle of the nature goes on, the changes in our life should also go with this that cycle. Okay, so think, uh, if we don't follow these seasons or don't work according or don't eat according to the season, so what can happen? Okay, in the same way, if people try to disturb this cycle, so what can happen? Just think. Yes, there can be many natural calamities because of this. So we see nowadays there are earthquakes, there are floods, somewhere there are scarcity of rain, hurricanes are there, volcanic eruption. All this is happening because human activities are disturbing this cycle of nature. We are trying to go do opposite to this regular cycle. So that's why all these things are happening. Okay, so people at those time during Vedic period, they try to avoid all these things. Okay, so everyone should be careful not to let it happen. It is our duty also, so that we avoid making any disturbance in the natural cycle of the nature. So it was believed that following these rules was to follow dharma. So as we should follow everything, and we should do such human activities so that these natural activities won't get disturbed. In the same way, during Vedic period, people used to follow all these rules, and they used to think that following these rules means you are following dharma. So it was of great importance. Next, we will move towards the political system. As we have different villages, then we have districts, states, cities, etc. in our country. Okay, and there are different governmental systems to run the administration of all these places. In the same way, in the Vedic period also, there were small villages, and each village had a head who was known as Gramini. Okay, you can see the village head, he was known as Gramini. Now, a group of village a group of villages formed a wish. Means when many villages come together, they formed a wish. Okay, whose head was called Vishpati. Okay, several wish formed a Jana. Later, when the Jana settled into specific region, it came to be known as Janapada. And the head of this Janapada was known as Nrip. Nrip is a Sanskrit word. In Hindi, we call it Raja, and in English, King. Okay, so the head of this Janapada was known as King. So we will learn about many Janapadas and Mahajanpadas in our next chapters. The main duties of the king were to protect the people, collect taxes, and run the administration of his kingdom very efficiently, very nicely, so that the subjects of his kingdom should be happy. So he alone cannot do all such works. So in order to run the administration smoothly, the king appointed various officers. Who were those officers? Purohit, Senapati, and Bhagduk. Now, Purohit, the priest, and the Senapati, priest was there for the religious activities, and the Senapati of the army were the officers. They were of very special importance for the protection of the kingdom. They were appointed, and the Bhagduk. Bhag means share. So this person, Bhagduk, he used to collect taxes from the people. Okay, so the person who collected the king's share of produce of Jana was called Bhagduk. So there were four institutions who guided the king. They were Sabha, Smiti, Vidhat, and Jana. These were for organizations, or you can say institutions of different, means group of different people, and they used to help king in different works. So at that time, the people of the state participated in their working. Okay, different people used to help. Women too participated in the working of Sabha and Vidhat. So you can see women were also given importance at that time in these organizations. So the Sabha consisted of senior citizens of the state, whereas the Smiti was a general body of the people. So senior citizens were part of this Sabha, and Smiti had some other people. So now students, in the later Vedic period, Smriti and Puranas, they were also composed or written. So Smriti is what? Smriti means something that should be remembered. It was in a written form. So like Manu Smriti, Vishnu Smriti, Yagna Valka Smriti. So these were some of the books which were composed. Itihasa was there, and there were different Puranas like Vaishnav, Shaiv, Brahma, Upa Puranas, and Sthala Puranas. So many books, Puranas, Smritis were composed by great writers, okay, and great priests, Purohit, and Pandits. After a period of time, the religious stream based on the Vedas, Smritis, and Puranas and local traditions came to be known as Hinduism. Whoever was following all these Puranas or the instructions of all these Puranas, those people were known as Hindus, okay, and the religion was known as Hinduism. But except Hinduism, there were many other streams, many other religions that were established in the later Vedic period, like Jainism, Buddhism, which we will learn in our next chapter. Okay, so we will learn about all these in next chapter. So students, today we will learn about the religious ideas of the Vedic period, how yagnas were performed and why they were performed to keep the all the deities, all the natural forces happy, and how what type of political system was followed, how the administration was run in the villages or in the kingdom, okay, and how the kingdom was divided into the villages, Vish and Janas, everything. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much.